former bodyguard Gene Deal has stepped forward with claims that could rewrite hip-hop history. For years, whispers have surrounded the night Tupac Shakur was gunned down in Las Vegas, with fans doubting the official story. Now, Deal suggests Tupac may not only have survived the ambush, but also orchestrated his escape while outsmarting the very people who wanted him gone. His account paints a picture of betrayal, survival, and a daring plan that flipped the script on Diddy and others in the industry. If true, Tupac's disappearance wasn't tragedy. It was the greatest escape in music history. The night in Vegas. The official story tells of a drive-by shooting, frantic hospital scenes, and Tupac's final hours spent under tight security. Yet from the very beginning, questions surfaced. Witnesses gave conflicting reports. The coroner's records listed details that didn't quite match Tupac's known height and weight. The cremation happened so quickly that even close friends were left bewildered. Then came the autopsy photo, grainy, unclear, and endlessly debated. Instead of closing the case, these inconsistencies only fueled suspicion that the truth was being hidden, intentionally or otherwise. The Machiavelli clues. Months before his reported death, Tupac released the now legendary album The Don Killuminati, The 7-Day Theory, under the alias Machiavelli. Fans noticed its eerie symbolism. The subtitle hinted at a resurrection, while the name itself referenced the Italian strategist Niccolò Machiavelli, who wrote about faking one's death to outsmart enemies. Some even pointed out that rearranging the letters in Machiavelli could spell "am alive." At the time, many brushed this off as coincidence or Tupac's flair for dramatic storytelling. But in the years that followed, these details became central to the theory that Tupac had orchestrated his own disappearance. Rumors of escape. As years passed, stories began circulating of Tupac sightings in Cuba, Belize, and even New Jersey. Grainy photographs appeared online, showing men who resembled him, sometimes older, heavier, but always with the unmistakable eyes fans swore they recognized. One former bodyguard claimed Tupac staged his exit with the help of allies, including political groups that had deep ties to his family's activist roots. He alleged that Tupac was whisked away by private jet after the Vegas shooting, aided by networks skilled at moving undetected. Though impossible to verify, such claims continue to breathe life into the possibility of Tupac's survival. The role of the Panthers. Tupac was born into a family deeply tied to the Black Panther Party. His mother, Afeni Shakur, was a revolutionary who fought fiercely against systemic injustice, and his godmother, Assata Shakur, famously escaped U.S. custody and found refuge in Cuba. With such connections, some argue it would not have been impossible for Tupac to disappear with help from the same activist circles. Supporters of this theory say his vanishing wasn't just about survival. It was about continuing the fight in a different form, hidden from public view. Sightings that won't die. Every few years, new proof emerges that reignites the conversation. Locals in Havana claim they saw a man identical to Tupac shopping in corner stores, wearing a bandana and keeping to himself. A blurry video clip from South America went viral, showing a man rapping in a familiar cadence. Even celebrities have fueled speculation, sometimes joking that Tupac is still alive, or hinting that the truth hasn't been fully revealed. While skeptics dismiss these stories as fan fantasies or doctored images, the sheer volume of claims makes the mystery impossible to ignore. The autopsy and cremation puzzles. Adding fuel to the fire are inconsistencies surrounding Tupac's supposed autopsy. The listed weight and height didn't align with what close friends recalled. Tattoos appeared different, blurred, or missing in the images released. Then, in a twist straight out of a conspiracy thriller, the cremator who reportedly handled Tupac's body retired immediately after and was never heard from again. To believers, this isn't coincidence. It's evidence of a cover-up designed to conceal the truth of Tupac's vanishing act. The cultural blueprint. Even if Tupac did not literally survive, his blueprint for immortality is undeniable. He often spoke about not fearing death but wanting to leave behind words that would spark change long after he was gone. In that sense, whether alive in hiding or not, Tupac succeeded. His music, ideas, and rebellious spirit remain alive in every new generation of artists who cite him as an influence. The enduring mystery of his fate has only added to his legend, ensuring that Tupac remains a central figure in cultural conversation nearly 30 years later. The fall of empires. Fast forward to today, and hip-hop's most powerful moguls face scrutiny unlike ever before. Federal investigations, lawsuits, and explosive headlines dominate the news, making fans revisit old rumors and re-examine past events. Some suggest that if Tupac were alive, he would be watching from the shadows as the industry faces the reckoning he once predicted in his lyrics. The timing feels almost poetic. The cracks in the empire are showing, and the ghost of Tupac looms larger than ever. A story too strange to dismiss. The tale of Tupac's possible survival isn't just about wild fan theories or internet rumors. It speaks to something deeper: the refusal to accept that such a vibrant, world-changing figure could be silenced so abruptly. The inconsistencies, the cryptic album messages, the whispered sightings, they all create a story too strange to fully dismiss. Whether Tupac is alive in the physical sense or only in spirit, the fact that we are still talking about him proves his mission succeeded. He forced the world to keep questioning, keep doubting, and keep searching for truth. The human side of the myth. Beneath all the speculation lies the emotional weight of Tupac's story. For fans, friends, and family, the uncertainty makes closure impossible. Some cling to hope, others to grief, but all agree that Tupac left behind an imprint no one can erase. He was more than a celebrity. He was a voice for the unheard, a mirror of struggle, and a reminder of resilience. That's why, decades later, people still hang on to every rumor and every clue, because the world isn't ready to let him go. The whisper of escape. Did Tupac Shakur slip into exile? For nearly 3 decades, the story of Tupac Shakur's tragic end has been etched into pop culture history. A drive-by shooting on a warm Vegas night in 1996, a frantic hospital stay, and 6 days later, the media declared the young icon gone. Yet whispers never died. Conspiracy theories, grainy videos, eyewitness claims, and even law enforcement rumors kept fueling the possibility that Shakur never truly left us. One of the most gripping claims centers on a daring escape, orchestrated with the help of Black Panther networks and quiet approval from Cuba. Michael Nice, and the movie script escape central to these whispers, is Michael Nice, a man who spoke publicly about a story that sounded ripped from a Hollywood screenplay. He described a covert escape involving a private jet, Black Panther operatives, and a young Tupac co-piloting his way to freedom. According to Nice, the operation was tense. Sirens, cop cars, and chaos swirled around Las Vegas as if the city was chasing ghosts. He claimed that once the jet lifted off, a heavy silence fell over the cabin, replaced by relief. It felt less like a victory and more like survival. The chaos on the ground. What gives Nice's account a layer of intrigue is how it collides with real testimonies. That night, young paramedics on duty, men who later became firefighters, recalled the mayhem around the shooting scene. They spoke of chaos, cop cars speeding by, and an urgent request to help a wounded man. Though they worked on the victim as best as they could, the story never seemed to align perfectly with official records. That small gap between what was reported and what was remembered gave conspiracy theorists endless fuel to argue something didn't add up. Castro's alleged approval. The most sensational part of Nice's claim came later, that Fidel Castro himself approved the plan. The supposed conditions were strict. Shakur would need to remain invisible, silent, and never risk exposing Cuba to international scrutiny. If true, this would transform the story from a lucky escape into a carefully negotiated exile. For fans, it painted an image of a man not running away in panic, but entering a political sanctuary with rules as binding as chains. The Epstein comparison conspiracies thrive when people draw parallels, and one of the most chilling comparisons tied to this story comes from the world of Jeffrey Epstein. Just as Epstein allegedly held tapes and secrets on powerful individuals, some argue Tupac may have carried knowledge too dangerous to ignore. When the stakes are that high, the truth rarely unfolds in plain sight. This comparison keeps the idea alive that survival may not just have been possible, but necessary. Nice's mysterious end. Before Nice could deliver what he promised, hard proof, news broke of his passing. For followers of his interviews, the timing felt far too convenient. Whether it was poor health, misfortune, or something more sinister, the result was the same: silence. His absence left behind tantalizing fragments of a story without closure, and that silence became its own kind of evidence. If Nice was silenced, believers argue, it only confirmed the depth of the cover-up. The body switch theory. Among Nice's most startling claims was the idea of a body switch. According to him, money changed hands, a double was used, and the death of Tupac was staged to perfection. In this telling, the hospital drama and media spectacle were nothing more than smoke and mirrors, while the real man slipped across borders. Barbados was mentioned as a stopping point before the final journey into Cuba, a detail that continues to spark debate among researchers and fans. Life in exile. Even if such an escape were true, exile isn't freedom. It's another kind of prison. For someone like Tupac, who thrived on stage energy, creativity, and constant reinvention, decades of silence would have been torment. Psychologists often describe long isolation as transformative, sometimes destructive. For Shakur, exile might have turned the fiery poet into a hardened survivor. The thought raises haunting questions. If Tupac did return today, would he even be recognizable? Not just in appearance, but in spirit? The Diddy connection speculation about industry rivalries and power struggles never strayed far from this narrative. Some claim pressure from the industry forced Tupac into hiding, while others point to whispers about threats and ultimatums. While there is no concrete evidence tying these claims to reality, the speculation persists, largely because the music industry has long been a world where power and secrecy collide. It is this very uncertainty that continues to tie names like Diddy into the larger conversation, not as proven villains, but as figures surrounded by questions. The beginning of a legacy. Tupac Shakur was more than a rapper. He was a poet, activist, and cultural force whose voice carried far beyond music. By the mid-1990s, he had become the face of hip-hop's rebellion, blending raw lyricism with a fearless critique of society. His life, however, was cut short, at least officially, on a warm night in Las Vegas in 1996, when bullets struck him after a Mike Tyson fight. 6 days later, news broke that Tupac had passed away at just 25. But almost 3 decades later, the world is still asking the same haunting question. Did Tupac really die that night? Or did he escape into the shadows? Conclusion: illusion or legacy? The whispers are bold, the claims dramatic, and the truth tangled in decades of speculation. Whether or not Tupac Shakur is alive, the very possibility says something about his impact. Few artists in history could inspire such devotion that fans would rewrite reality just to keep hope alive. If he did survive, his silence may have been his greatest rebellion. If he didn't, then the myth itself became his immortality. Either way, Tupac's presence, real or imagined, still shakes the industry to its core.